The GEEK Files, 2026, January 19th, Burnaby. So, the inland fishery. Probably the inland fishery is still going. But I'm going to speak of it from what was happening in the 80s, mid 80s. Inland fishery is run by Native, is a federal program where natives in remote northern lakes gill net fish for whatever's in the lake, usually trout, pickerel, pike, whitefish. Because of remote lakes, the fish are gutted and gilled at the location. Float planes come in and pick up tubs of fish and then fly them to some processing plant, usually a cooperative native-run processing plant, where they're flash frozen or packed in that, probably flash frozen. These plants are usually at the end of roads, in the middle of nowhere. This fish is then sent to the European market. At that time, it was France and Spain. And in exchange for that, the federal government allowed France and Spain to continue to fish the Outer Grand Banks, and just like devastating them. Because, fish are smart. The Canadian fish will stay on the inner Grand Banks, and the international fish will stay on the Outer Grand Banks, right? I've been flying these tubs of fish from these remote lakes to the processing plant is a major source of income for small float plane companies. There's one of these in a place called Windigo Lake that I know of, and one of these in Leaf Rapids. Lots of them, but those are the two that I personally were involved with. Windigo Lake. So Windigo Lake is north of Sioux by about 500 miles. So you drive up to Pickle Lake on the pavement, and then you take the gravel road north from there till you pass an airstrip called Weebenville until you get to the processing plant, the fish plant. And it's literally a fish plant and some trailers for housing, mostly natives. There's a dock there for the float planes to land at. And when I was there, Central Air had their own trailer with one aircraft mechanic and one pilot. I think they had an otter flying, and so the otter would fly from little lake to little lake to little lake until he got a load and then come back. And there's something called a beaverback or an otterback. These fish tubs weigh probably 25 pounds, but you can't stand up in an otter or a beaver. So you wind up humping these fish tubs. So especially in the otter, the cargo doors in the back, and you have to take them all the way to the front for weight and balance. And so you're humped over like a dog chewing on a football, packing these 25-pound slimy fish tubs back and forth. And the fish guts drain, and the airplanes stink because the fish slime drains out of the tubs and gets underneath the floorboards into the airframe, and it's just unfun. It's a lot of money for the company, but it's a lot of steady money because it's government, right? The feds back up this play. So the Weebenville airport is kind of neat. I don't know what his first name was. in the 70s decided that he was going to build an airstrip halfway between Pickle Lake and Windigo Lake to service northern communities with a DC-3 and probably other aircraft with DC-3s. He I'm not sure there's any real financial reason to do this because you have to get the freight to him and it's farther down a gravel road. So it's easier just to go to Pickle Lake for the freight companies, drop off the stuff in a warehouse, load up, and then fly out. But if you're in the middle of nowhere, aircraft rules and aviation rules in Canada are line of sight. If the DOT can't see you, they don't matter. So if he's not at the airstrip in Pickle Lake under the watchful eye of everybody else, he gets to do what he wants. He eventually went broke, and at the time I was there was a DC-3 sitting there with its left landing gear collapsed, and the urban legend was someone went to steal the gear pins out of the 3 because they needed them. And when they jerked the gear pin out of the left-hand gear, it collapsed and killed the guy, which is a good legend, good story, and what could be true. Yeah. So because I was still staying at the float plane base in Sioux Lookout, Andy decided to send me to Windigo Lake. Oh, Windigo Lake, there's an island off the fish packing plant called Dog Island. And it's called Dog Island because the natives, if they had misbehaving dogs, they would take them out to the island, leave them there, and just bring fish guts to them until the dogs started behaving. True story. I'm gonna get into some very politically incorrect terminology and thinking here based on me spending 4 years flying in and out of reservations. Anyway, so I was there. So Andy decided to send me to Windigo Lake. On my part, I thought it was a good plan because it got me out of living there, and it was room and board. But what I didn't realize is it cut me off for about a month from looking for housing, which turned out to be a real thing in Sioux Lookout. I really underestimated how scarce housing was, period, in Sioux Lookout. Yeah, so there I was in Windigo Lake in a mobile home, basically, a single wide trailer. Yeah. So yeah, making appropriate life decisions. You don't make any money, but boy, do you get good stories.